E3 2017 has finally begun, and of course EA was the first to take the stage. My name is Amata, and in this Red Gaming Tech video we are here to talk about everything that was revealed, or at least the most interesting parts. As is kind of expected of EA, there's a lot of fluff, a lot of sports, which to be honest I just instantly droned out, and in all honesty a lot of it was really cringy. There's sort of two pub dads doing this sort of weird commentary banter thing about football and Ronaldo. I was just saying, like, EA, please make it stop. I'm begging you. It actually hurts inside. But let's not rag on that too much, but it is worth mentioning because there was like half an hour of sports and cringe and stuff before we actually got to, you know, video games. And then we went back to sports. Hooray! To be honest, the conference from EA was a little thin on the ground. It is technically still going, but they've gone on to sort of live stream now, Star Wars Battlefront 2, obviously. And as my understanding, there is no more announcements after that. So, yeah. Let's go through what we do know, however. Now, they are investing more in FIFA esports, which is good to know. Good to see EA throwing their weight behind esports, even if it is with a game that I do not care about at all. One of the games we did see, however, is Need for Speed Payback, which, to be honest, looks cool gameplay-wise, but the story is like, you're on a revenge mission against a cartel called The House, and you do that by driving cars real fast. It's basically, you know, Fast and the Furious style game. However, there's heist missions, there's going to be car battles, there's of course going to be visual and performance customization of cars. You can even restore classic cars from scrap, and they did show us a decent segment of gameplay, which is good. I always appreciate gameplay rather than a pre-rendered trailer, and it was pretty much like one of those driving films where they solve everything by driving real fast. You know, you're on a mission to steal a car, you're chasing a truck that has the car in it, and sort of dodging things and taking out people who are trying to stop you and all that sort of stuff. It did look cool, and I see a bit of a story injected into it and making it more than, hey, just get to the finish line before the other guy kind of thing. Now, of course, they announced a while back the EA Originals program. This is through which we got, of course, Unravel. And we have another game coming from this called A Way Out. Now, this game actually interests me quite a bit because, well, first of all, it's by the guys who made Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. That interests me just by itself. It looks very, very cool. And this is another co-op game. Now, this actually made a pretty interesting decision, which I think is quite bold, to be honest. It is split-screen co-op only. He kept stressing only. Not once did they say that you could play this on your own in single player. Now, don't take this to mean that this is only couch co-op. That's not what it means. It means that, yes, you can play it in couch co-op, a rare sight these days, I know, but you can also play it online. I just took this to mean that this cannot be played alone. And to be honest, when they showed us the gameplay, it made perfect sense. It's not like Brothers, where the two characters are basically constantly near each other, and you're sort of switching control between the two to solve puzzles and do different actions. The two players can very much be in different places. The story of this is you are in a prison and you want to escape the prison. And for example, one of the examples he showed us was one character can be in a cutscene when he's just arriving in prison, and the other one can be on the higher level, actually watching him being, you know, brought into the prison along with all the other prisoners who are being brought in. Which is pretty cool, and, you know, you're essentially working together with your friend or online partner, wherever it happens to be, to escape the prison. And the developer came out live on stage, and I have to say, I really felt his passion. He seemed genuinely excited about this project, which is always nice to see. And he did say that you could approach this in different ways because, well, each of the characters has obviously a different personality, and, for example, one of them might start a fight in the back of the room, so a guard is distracted from a point that they need to be able to pay attention to, and obviously the other character can sneak in and get what they need. Or the other character is perhaps a bit more, you know, brute force type, would literally just start a fight himself or punch out the guard, that sort of thing. So there's different ways you could approach it based upon not only the character, but obviously, of course, your personal playstyle. Naturally, there are some limitations, but it seems there's a lot of replayability here available in A Way Out, which I really, really like. Now, there was a brief mention of something by the name of Seed, which seems to be a smaller team which is focused on improving things like AI. There was a brief mention of deep learning. We didn't really learn anything of substance, unfortunately, but it just seems to be they're working on not only games, but the technology behind them to improve the games with that new technology, which makes perfect sense. Now, with the biggest tease, and the weirdest decision I've seen in a while, to be honest, from EA, is they teased a new IP from Bioware. It's called Anthem. It's clearly set in space, it's got aliens and guns, that's about all we know. But the strange thing is that they said we can learn more in the Microsoft conference, which of course is taking place tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So, why they would do this rather than revealing the game at their own conference is a bit strange. The reasons for this I obviously don't know, but I can speculate, and to be honest I think the most logical reason is most likely the Xbox Scorpio. It's going to be used to show off not only the console, but the console is going to be used to show off the game. There could be some sort of exclusivity thing as well tied in, but I would place a fairly comfortable bet on it just being for the Scorpio. However, the main thing about EA's conference today, it's pretty clear they just did not have a lot to say or to show. There was an awful lot of filler. You know, the cringe dads, as I'm now going to call them, was just painful. So much faff about sports. Not only the sports games trailers, but just a lot of talking about sports and giving 30 minutes of the conference to multiplayer gameplay, which would normally be relegated sort of like a post-conference stream, was a bit strange. They did not signal that clearly at all. But they did show some cool stuff, and one of those things was, of course, Star Wars Battlefront 2, which we saw a decent chunk of. So let's talk about what we know. Well, the first thing we know is, of course, there's going to be a single player. We already knew that. There's going to be 3 times the content versus the old game, which is great news. There's going to be couch co-op, as well as more heroes, planets, vehicles, and space battles in the multiplayer. And we saw plenty of all of these in the gameplay that they showed off. So an interesting thing is that during the multiplayer, you actually earn battle points through play. So let's say you're actually working the objective, you're actually helping your team, that sort of thing. You get these battle points through this play, and then you spend that on, you know, a cool ship or a cool weapon or playing as a hero or whatever. So instead of just being at this certain point on a map, you actually have to have the points to actually summon or use that thing, whatever it happens to be, which is pretty cool. There's going to be a playable female lead for the single player, and there's going to be a class system. And the most surprising thing, the thing that made me kind of look at the screen with a slight tip to my head and go, EA, are you okay? I mean, are you feeling alright? Is free DLC. I know. First of all, we learned that Finn is going to be in the game along with Captain Phasma. There's going to be a bunch of The Last Jedi stuff in there, as well as, of course, Force Awakens and all the new films that we've got on in the last couple of years. And all maps, heroes, and weapons are going to be free. So once again, maps, characters, vehicles, modes, weapons, and star cards and more are going to be free. There is not going to be any season pass for this game. Crazy. I mean, that shouldn't be crazy, but it is, because Battlefront was notoriously poor value for money, with you having to really buy the season pass to get the full experience. Now, I have no doubt that we will see microtransactions or something to help EA monetize this. It's probably going to be an Overwatch style with cosmetics being purchased to dress up your characters or whatever. And if that's the way they go, I would actually prefer that over splitting the fan base with maps as DLC and cutting off half the content behind a $50 season pass. If those are the two options, people being able to buy a new skin for $1.50 or whatever is definitely the lesser of those two evils. One of them isn't, you know, completely totally anti-consumer. I mean, I have a distaste for microtransaction and full price games, as you know, but when they're done okay, like for example in the Overwatch style, where it's purely cosmetic and literally adds nothing to the game apart from, hey, I look cool, then cool. If that's how you want to do it, I would rather that than you do a rip-off season pass like they did last time. This does actually show that EA does pay attention to us, and to be honest, I have to say, the gameplay for Star Wars Battlefront that we saw in the multiplayer, very little single player unfortunately, it looked really cool. I'm actually looking forward to it. I had no interest at all in Battlefront 1. The complete lack of content mean that I was not interested. Despite my interest in the Star Wars universe and my love for the Star Wars universe, I was like, nope, I'm out. Nope, not paying for that. But Star Wars Battlefront 2 really does look like they've improved. Not only in terms of how they've done the DLC and stuff, but the game just looks better. It actually looks fuller. It looks like a complete product, just from what we saw. The multiplayer looks so much better than what we have for Star Wars Battlefront, even in the small snippet that we had. So I have to say, despite the lack of anything real from EA, I still thought Star Wars Battlefront looked cool. I do wish they just decided to do a shorter conference rather than padding out with all this nonsense, but regardless of that, that's pretty much it from EA's conference. Unfortunately, they did not, again, have much to share. The highlights, I think, is definitely A Way Out, and I would say Anthem, but again, we learned basically nothing. So I guess it's something to look forward to. So ends the first real day of E3. An easy enough mistake to make, especially when you're lacking in caffeine. Of course, the conferences that we're all looking forward to are still to come. We have Microsoft tomorrow, and obviously we've got Bethesda, and we've got the PC Gaming Show, and Ubisoft, and Sony, Nintendo, Devolver Digital. We have a lot of stuff to come. This is a fairly weak way to start the weekend, I will say, but it could have been a lot worse, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised by some of the stuff that EA had to show us, so not bad. Not bad, EA. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.